Here we are. I'm hoping that we are live. I'll just give it a quick check and see. Sometimes it takes a little while for LinkedIn to catch up. And I think we are there. I'm seeing a little bit of a delay, but we're here. Hey, I want to thank you all for being with me. But most importantly, I want to thank Sarah Johnston for being here with me. Sarah, thank you so much. I want you all to introduce yourselves to one another. Let us know if you're here. It makes us feel better. Well, I know it makes me feel better. Sarah's used to getting lots of feedback and she's got a clan of people following her. So let us know that you are here and that you can hear us and that you can see us. And that would be great. I'm
this
not
is
seeing.
So fun, Hannah. I've been on your live before, and you always have such a great audience with great questions. So I'm excited to see some of the questions that we get today.
I am too. I know there's some good stuff. I'm excited that you discovered the org. And so before we start talking about the org, which is our focus today, do you remember how we met? Because I was trying to rack my brain and like, oh, I don't remember exactly. I think you reached out to me is how I remember.
No, it was you. You were so nice to me. It was you. I was a new career coach. I was a recruiter before, and I'd made the transition to being a career coach. And, I was one of the first people to start using LinkedIn to leverage my voice and create content. And maybe there was like some old guard, like, who is this girl, out there? And you just have always been like such a kind, nice person in the career industry and one of the most respected voices in the career space. I think so. And you reached out, we had a call, and I've been one of your biggest fans since.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a huge fan of yours. And so one of the things that I love your newsletter that comes out monthly. I wish you would do it more often because I feel like there's too much of a gap in between the different editions, but I know it takes a lot of time. But one of the things that it brings to my attention, and I think that other people would benefit from knowing, is that it takes time, energy, and effort to stay up with the trends in job search and all the different things that are going on. Can you share, like, what's your secret and how much time do you spend trying to keep up?
I think all professionals at every career level need to be invested in learning and having a growth mindset. And so for me, especially when I was first starting off as a career coach, I would literally read something every single day, and I would spend an hour investing in learning. I don't spend an hour a day today, but I probably spend maybe between 1 and 3 hours a week reading new content. And I love, there's this fantastic Facebook group and newsletter called Recruiting Brain Food. I think you subscribe to it as well. I read it religiously. I learn a lot of new things. I read Reddit on recruiter journals, what's new and trending there. I like Josh Bersin. I read his content regularly. Harvard Business Review. I think the more you can challenge yourself with thought leadership that is research-based, but also in the trenches too, of like what the voice of the consumer is saying, what people who are using tools are saying, can help educate you and inform you of what's new and next.
And I remember when I hold groups, when I meet with people in small groups, I always ask this question: what are you reading to stay current? Like, where do you go to get your information? And for a lot of these people who are unemployed job seekers, they're telling me, I'm not reading anything. And it breaks my heart because it's, if you're not keeping up with the trends in your industry, whatever occupation you're in, it's easy to miss out on things. And that's going to make it so much harder when you go to transition. If you don't know the latest lingo, like agile, if you don't understand what agile means in today's workforce, I don't care what job you're in, right? You're behind the 8 ball. You have to understand how that impacts business and how it impacts workflow and all of that stuff. So it always breaks my heart that when people say they aren't, and it really, so maybe it's 1 hour a week. I hope that there is a way that job seekers and people who are working can invest. And I think that's one of the reasons why I loved being part of a professional association, is that it has built-in stream of information.
Absolutely. And I learned from people. Going to conferences is one way that you can do that. And a lot of people have that time budgeted every single year to go to an industry conference, meet the thought leaders, hear what's new and next, and start networking. So like you said, I really encourage everyone to spend an hour a week and then choose a conference and either invest yourself or get your employer to make that investment in you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to transition into this great new tool that you've discovered. And you know what? I didn't realize this. It's been around for a while. I think Donna Spy introduced it a long time ago, but I think I knew about it, but didn't know about it. So when you recently posted something about that, I'm going to share your article too in a little bit. Let's just talk about what the org is and what it does. High level overview.
Yeah, I think I learned about it from Recruiting Brain Food, which I just mentioned. It's a fantastic group. But what I love about the org is it opens up and identifies organizational charts. And so you can go onto the platform and type in a company that you respect or that you admire. Maybe that's one of your target companies from your target job search list, and go to the site and look at it. And it gives you who the exact org chart, and you can click on it and learn about people. And then you can take those names and bring them over to LinkedIn as well and start doing target research on people. It also gives you board members and shows you vacancies within the organization as well.
So I think in your article too, you say there are two primary audiences that the org created this for, right?
Sure. Job seekers and potential investors.
Yeah. Yep. So it's all free, which I think is really sort of cool.
Yeah.
Do you know how they get this information? I mean, some of it is publicly available, but where do they get it? Do you know?
I'm honestly not sure. Imagine that it's scraping. So perhaps that people are either submitting this information or that they're identifying it using LinkedIn or Crunchbase or other tools. But to be honest, I'm not sure where they're getting this information.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It doesn't really necessarily matter. I think the fact is that it's free, free, and that it is available to all. So for those of you that have not heard of the org, I'm going to tell you, go ahead, go click on, there's not an easy way to embed this link. Sorry, from the streaming software. I haven't quite mastered that either. But go to theorg.com and you can start playing around with that. Sarah, I want you to talk to me about the number one way that you think that people can use this. So if you're connected to a company, you can see the leaders and the decision makers.
Yeah, you can. So I was working with a job seeker just yesterday. This person is long-term unemployed, and their biggest issue is that they have a network issue. They don't know people and they don't know how to reach out to people. This person is fantastic, highly qualified, wonderful job seeker, would probably tell you that they're more introverted and they haven't really invested in learning about new people. And so we were working yesterday on their target company list. And if you're listening today and you don't have a target company list and you're a job seeker, that is one thing I would absolutely walk out of here and do. But we were looking at their top 25 companies. And I was saying to this individual, okay, if you were to work for this one company, where do you think you would fall in the structure of this company? Who do you think you would report to? And this person said, oh, easy. I would report probably to the senior director of product management. And I said, well, what makes you think that? The senior director? I said, you've got, 15 years of experience. You're really trying to target a director, senior director role. Why do you think you would report to this person? He said, well, it's a really big company. I imagine that there's a lot of levels and layers in this company. I'd probably report there. And I said, well, are you sure they're a big company? Let's look at this a little bit further. And so we looked on the org and we looked on LinkedIn, and it actually wasn't as large of a company as they thought. This company has great brand recognition, and this individual really likes this company and subscribes to a lot of their marketing, and wrongly assumed that they were larger than they were. And they would have targeted the wrong person had they just gone with their gut and not really dived into who the size and the research of this organization. So I think knowing the levels and the layers of the organization will help you better target people and have more richer career conversations.
And I love that, Sarah, because in conversations that I've had with job seekers too, they don't understand what the structure of other companies looks like. They know what they know. They know the structure of their past employer. And I will say that most companies will not be structured the same way your previous employer was structured. And so to be able to see this at a glance and then dive in really helps job seekers who are transitioning understand how things might get done differently and who the right people are. So that's really important. So one of the other things that you said, because you in your article, and I'll share that now too, you said, this is the great article that Sarah wrote. So this is the article that you have to go read to fully understand everything that we're going to be talking about today. But the next thing you said, you learn who the hiring manager is, and you can use this information in your cover letter or in your outreach, right? So you can actually see the names of folks or who they are, right?
Which is fantastic. So instead of like a dear hiring manager, I'm interested in this role, you can go on the org, figure out who the hiring manager is, then go on to LinkedIn, read their profile, see little interesting tidbits about the person, breadcrumbs, if you will, about them, ways that you're connected, and then make a very personalized outreach message to the individual, which will likely result in a deeper conversation or even an actual conversation, because you know this, like a copy paste message isn't going to get you far. People are not going to respond and give you 15 or 20 minutes of their time if you're just sending them a copy paste message.
Yeah. So sometimes when I talk to people, I'm like, when you're a spy, you create a dossier to sort of understand who people are, where they've come from, what they do, what their families do, the more and I'm an introvert, so I could get all geeked out about research, but that research makes me feel almost like I know the person. So when I do reach out, I'm like, oh, I already know this person. They should know me, right? So I think it makes it more comfortable and the job seekers can be more confident if they get this information, right?
Absolutely. I love that. And the connection will be more genuine.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing that the org shows is how many degrees of separation there is between you and the CEO or other people in the organization. Why do you think that's important beyond what we've already talked about?
It's very important because we have inflated titles today. And a lot of times job seekers, like you said, no organizational chart is the same. And just because your company did something a certain way doesn't mean this company that you're interviewing with will do something that same way. And so you may be interviewing for a position and you may think that it is a decision-making position and that you will have authority over a team or authority to contribute to the decisions at a high level within the organization. But seeing the actual org chart will help you know who you report to, who your boss reports to, and where decisions are really being made.
Yeah, that's great. Question here. Do we know, I don't know if you know the answer to this, Sarah. Angela asked this. Is the information on the org updated regularly?
I don't know that. I would assume so because I check the website often and I'm constantly seeing new updates and new features, but I don't know how much individual org charts are being updated.
Because the other thing that you say is that it also shows vacancies. Tell me how that works.
Yeah. You can see if, for example, if let's just say one department has had three vacancies within that role. If you are a job seeker and you're interviewing for a position that may work closely with that department or may collaborate with that department, that could be a red flag. And so seeing vacancies could help you identify if there's a red flag there or if there's a shift in strategy. And perhaps either this is not as important to them as an organization, or maybe this is even more important and they're hiring more in this role. And so this gives you information so that you can ask questions in the interview. All of this is just information so that you can dig deeper and learn if this is a fit for you.
And I think that what we often don't take into consideration is that we can ask a lot of questions, because oftentimes I know people who go into a job without a full understanding of what the organization structure looks like, and the fact that they've had 3 CEOs in the last year. Like, all of that has an impact on the company and the organization and everybody's role. So
morale and all of that information is power. And when you have this knowledge, you can make more informed decisions.
Absolutely. What else haven't we talked about? I'm going through the list here. Anything else that helped that you think is cool about the org that we haven't talked about?
Yeah. You know, I think that you asked a question earlier as we were preparing for this conversation. You said, do you think organizations will use this knowledge and will start creating perhaps their own org charts that they display publicly on their website? Do you think transparency is the future? And I would tell your listeners today that transparency is the future. I think that organizations want you to feel like they're being really transparent in the name of employer branding. As you will see, there's a lot more spend from organizations on marketing to job seekers because there is a war on talent, and finding the very best talent is a huge advantage for a company. And so you're going to see HR departments report to marketing, which you haven't seen that happen before. And so I think transparency is going to be a trend, but you have to look at it with an eye to what is real and what they want you to think about an organization.
And I think that's really important. The nice thing about the org is it doesn't have any loyalty to the company that it's creating an org chart for, right? So they're not spinning that org chart. I mean, they may be getting information that is fun, but maybe not, right? We don't know exactly.
Exactly.
I think that transparency is, and we're seeing it now with salary transparency. We're seeing it with in so many other areas of what's going on. So for job seekers and businesses. And I think that it's only a good thing. I'm
so glad that states are passing laws to make it a requirement to put the salary in the job description, because you don't want to waste time as a job seeker applying for a job, interviewing for a job, only to get an offer that isn't going to be a good fit or good move for you. So I'm all for it if it's real.
Right. And it's something that New York City is doing. And now other regions of my state, New York, are looking at doing it. I remember having a conversation with a guy who was a recruiter in technology about, this was a long time ago, maybe 8 years ago. But even back then, I was a huge fan. Like, we should put the salaries in the job posting, because if everybody knows, it's good, right? It would save everybody a lot of time. And he's like, no, not in my industry. I could never do that. Never say never, right? But I could never do that, because I don't want my competition, the other employers in my industry, knowing how much I'm paying. Like, okay, well, dude, they're going to find out. It's
yeah.
So, it's just a simple, like, the scarcity of information doesn't work for you, because we're all now better consumers and we're more educated, and we're going to keep digging until we find the information we look for. So I'm always been a huge fan of transparency.
Younger generations are sharing information, whereas older generations, there was this mindset of, if you share what your salary is, you're going to get fired, or that's unprofessional. Today, millennials and Gen X or Gen Z are more willing to share that freely.
Thank goodness they've broken a lot of wonderful trends. Like, it was, the dress code, the working remotely, the work-life balance, all of these things that we've been holding on to because we were supposed to. That's what somebody told us long ago, right? Well, break it up. What else I think company culture is one of those things that people don't know how, two things, don't know how to define, and I don't know how you give a definition of what your company culture is. There isn't some list of corporate culture definitions. So what are the different types of things that you have seen people put value on as they are researching and trying to understand company culture as a job seeker?
That's a great question. Right now, there's a focus on hybrid work or remote work as part of a company culture. And so asking questions or seeing in job descriptions if that's available is something that I'm seeing a lot of people do. I would say 10 years ago, or even as little as 7 years ago, people cared about things like free lunches or really cool, fun offices like the Google campus. But today, I'm not sure that people are looking for that as much in terms of company culture. But I would say, as a career coach, I would encourage people to look at retention and look at how long people stay in a role, if people are being promoted, if there's personal development plans for employees. And that's something that you can see from the org. You can look at and see people's names and titles, and then go back to LinkedIn and see how long they've been in that position and where they were before they were in that particular role, so that you can see their success plan.
That's great. That's super important. And again, retention is important. It shows that there's a lot of goodness going on inside the organization. Otherwise, people would be bolting out the door.
Yeah.
What about leadership? Like, sometimes people don't know how to assess or evaluate their immediate boss and then their boss's boss. Anything by looking at the org, do you think tenure in that job has any kind of relevancy?
That's tricky because it's such a case by case basis.
It
Someone
is.
who's been in a job for 10 years may be ineffective for 10 years.
Right.
But I think you can look at how they're promoting people and if people are getting promoted from underneath someone's team. And you can't necessarily see that exactly in the org, but you can take the information from the org chart and look up people to see where they've been in the past. And so again, more of a deep dive to get this intel would be great.
Right. So we might not be able to find it all in the org, but if we go look, research that person, we can get some good information. Sweta has a question. Hi. Hey, how are you?
Hey, Sparta.
Do you have links to the websites for remote work in the tech industry?
Ooh, I can't think of any right off the top of my head because I've been thinking about org charts for the last 10 minutes. But I don't have any that I can think of. I'm sorry, Sweta.
Yeah, I think that it really, like in the tech industry, I think I don't have any off the top of my head either. Like what I immediately go to are all of those sort of remote.org, remote work and flex jobs, like the big ones. I don't think they're necessarily niche enough for what you're talking about. But here's the other thing. I wish that, like, while it's great that you're trying to build this list, and I hope that you find more information than what we were able to give you, I want to teach job seekers to fish. So as a career coach, I'm a generalist in my field. I don't know everything about every industry or occupation. So what I want to do is teach the job seekers, for them to go ask questions of people that are in the tech industry. What sites do you use to find remote work for the types of tech jobs that we're talking about here? Because again, if it's from me, it's not as good maybe as if it's from somebody who's actually using those job boards and sort of trying to find work.
Well, and Hannah, to your point there as well, a lot of times jobs aren't advertised as remote, but if they found the right person with the right skill set and you had a hidden job market conversation with them, they may be willing to reconsider how they post the job and how this individual could work. And so I think it's all about having conversations with decision makers.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. I know a lot of us don't already know decision makers.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the org, going back to the org can help you understand the name of that decision maker, right? So that you can build those initial contacts that are going to get you the introduction to the decision maker, the person you need to speak with. I think sometimes job seekers feel like they just have to go straight for the jugular and go for the hiring manager or the decision maker. And that's not always the best route. You'll get much further. Go ahead.
No, I would just echo that. I can say that I'm proof to that. I'm a trailing spouse, and I've had to move multiple times for my husband's career where I knew no one in a particular city and I had no network. And I literally just went to the person who I thought would be my boss and wrote them a thoughtful email and asked for a meeting. And I landed 2 jobs in 2 different cities by doing that. And it really does work. And that's where information is power.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me see if there are any other questions. I have a few on the website for remote work and wanted your trust. Oh, yeah. We'll share it with us offline and we'll get you on that. For opportunities in tech companies, I love Auto. I've never heard auto.com. It's a great tool for identifying companies for your target list too, and they share info on the company. Learn something new. Hi, Ruth. It's good to see you. I have not learned about that, so I'll have to check that out. And everybody else, go check out Otto. I've never heard. That's awesome. For There is some functionality for those people who pay for LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Like some of this information can be gleaned from there too, right?
And Crunchbase has some information that's similar as well.
Yeah. So it's not like this is the only place you can get it. But we love that it's free. And we love that it is going to help you be a smarter job seeker and career transitioner, because it's not just for finding a job now, it is going to make you smarter. Think about this. If you are on the verge of graduating from an MBA program or from college, and you want to sort of get an idea of how many steps, how many layers are there, and what does the typical career path look like, having an org chart is a step one, right? So that you can ask more intelligent questions when you have some of those informational meetings. So there are lots of ways to use this. Any tips for that blind email to keep it simple, short, and get a response when there isn't a role presented yet? So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah, because I know she has answers, and I'll add on anything.
Yeah. I love this question. I think that you need a good hook, something in the first sentence or second sentence that shows that you know them and that this isn't just some copy paste form email that you found online. So if you were to listen to a podcast that perhaps they were on and maybe they said something that was insightful, you could share that as the hook. Or maybe you looked on their LinkedIn profile and saw that they went to the same university as you and you have that in common, or maybe you were involved in the same student group, even though it was 20 years ago. That could be something that you can mention in that first line. Or maybe you know someone in common and you got permission from the person that you know in common to mention their name, and you mentioned that in the hook. But I think the more personal you can make it right off the bat, it will encourage them to continue reading and show that you really do care and that you kind of borrowing the words from Dale Carnegie, that you're interested in them as well.
Yeah. I think too often job seekers focus on, I need to sell me. I got to get my pitch out there. Nobody cares about you until they care about you. Mm-hmm. So we've got to hook them by giving them information that's relevant, important to the person that we are writing. And that is why researching the person is so important. So I hope that has helped you, because those are some awesome tips that Sarah just doled out. Love that. Okay. So we've got like 1 more minute, and I just want to do some wrap up. Is there one thing, like I don't often get a chance to talk to you. So I want you to share your one best tip, the one thing that you want all job seekers to know.
I would say to all job seekers to actually build the target company list. And I probably have said this message before. And if you watch my hidden job market course on LinkedIn Learning, I preach this as well. But so many times I get on the phone with a job seeker who says, Sarah, I'm stuck. I can't figure out what's going on, what's wrong. And I say, well, do you have a target company list? And they're like, oh, yeah, of course I've got a target company list. But then I say, well, can you send it to me? I'd like to take a look at it. I'd like to look at it with you. And they don't actually have it on a spreadsheet, and they haven't actually built out 25 to 35 companies that they'd want to work for. And maybe you see this too, Hannah, but I think the act of going online and letting yourself look at organizations like the org and LinkedIn and really diving in and learning about what your options are, where you could work, who would hire you, will help you get so much further in your job search.
I love that, because I've been a fan of target lists forever. I worked for Lehigh Harrison, and back in the day, that was one of the things we taught all of our job seekers to do. That was over like a long time ago. It gives you focus, it gives you purpose, it gives you a launch pad. And so having that target list is so important. What excites you most? What's happening in this world of careers and job search that you're getting excited about right now?
That's a great question. Back in the 90s, there was like an infomercial. Like if you watched an infomercial, they would say, well, and wait, there's more, and wait, there's more. And I feel like the universe keeps saying, and wait, there's more. And so every time I give a prediction about what's going to happen or what's going on in the job search, I feel like the universe like throws a curveball, and it's like COVID and Omicron and what's going on, in other parts of the world. And so I think that the job search today is going to be different than the job search in 6 weeks or in 6 months. And like, it's going to be really hard to stay ahead of the curve. And so I would encourage job seekers to, as we talked about at the very beginning of the call, stay informed, look at the industry that you're in and try to get ahead of the curve, because the world is changing every single day. And wait, there's more. You want to make sure that you're ready.
Absolutely. I want everybody, if you don't already follow Sarah, please follow her, subscribe to her newsletter, go to her website. And oh, by the way, quick, will you tell us about Job Search Journey? Go ahead.
Yeah. Job Search Journey is the first job search marketplace out there for job seekers. I co-founded this with Adrienne Tom and Virginia Franco, who I have much respect and admiration for. But we just saw a real need in the job search. I feel honored and privileged to work with job seekers one-on-one to help them develop their career documents and help them job search. But I also recognize that that privilege is a price, and not every job seeker can afford to hire someone one-on-one. And so we wanted to create job search equity and create a space for job seekers to go and get high quality job search tools and resources. And we reached out to our friends, and Hannah's one of them, and created job search tools at a really low cost option. Most of them are under $15. And so anyways, I hope your listeners will check out that site as well.
Awesome. Jobsearchjourney.com. Next Tuesday, I'm going to be here at noon with Lisa Rangel, and that's sort of kicking off my next series of speakers. And we're going to be talking about mental health and job search. So Lisa's going to be talk about how to deal with rejection during job search. Then we've got Niato talking about stuff, and Shelley Piedmont talking about shifting I can't to I can. So sort of the rest of March is dedicated to mental well-being and job search, which is really important.
Needed.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Sarah, it's been a pleasure. I really thank you. Thank you all for watching today. And remember that this is recorded. So if you missed it, or if you have a friend who missed it, they can come back and watch it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hannah. This has been fun.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.